In Revenge of the Sith, Yoda offers to be the one to go help with the droid attack on the Wookiees because, as he says, he has good relations with the Wookiees. But what if Yoda had bad relations with the Wookiees? That's our story for today. Hope you guys enjoy, and let's get right into this one. Our story begins on Kashyyyk, roughly 100 years before the Clone Wars. An 800-year-old Jedi Grandmaster Yoda was out visiting his Wookiee friends for their annual Life Day celebration, having a good time with the younger Chewbacca. Yoda had a small glass of Galmoral in his hand as he sat on a comfortable couch made of the softest materials from all around Kashyyyk. It was everyone's favorite place to sit down. Every Wookiee loved sitting here, and as Yoda was sitting and chatting with a group of Jedi Padawans and Wookiee children, Chewbacca sat down with a loud thud next to Yoda, and this made Yoda spill his glass of Galmoral all over the couch. All of the Wookiees groaned in disappointment, quickly blaming Yoda for this incident. Yoda protested, saying that Chewbacca plopped down, and it caused the drink to spill everywhere. Chewbacca denied this, saying he sat down like any normal Wookiee, and the stubborn Grandmaster pointed his stick at Chewie, telling him that the spill was all his fault. Chewbacca was the one who ruined this, not him. This playful yet serious argument would actually go on for a bit, and eventually, the Wookiees would have to remove the couch from the area, trying to clean it up to no avail. Yoda felt bad, but it wasn't his fault. He refused to give in, and eventually the party would come to an end, and Yoda would leave Kashyyyk on extremely awkward terms with the Wookiees. He ruined their favorite place to sit, but it was Chewie. Either way, Yoda's relations with the Wookiees would turn from very good to quite awkward, and the Jedi Grandmaster would make his way to Kashyyyk not anytime soon. And now, we fast forward 100 years in the future to a council meeting that is deciding the fate of young Anakin Skywalker, going over battle plans for this war. Anakin was just instructed to take a seat after not being granted the rank of Master, and as other things were now being discussed, Ki-Adi-Mundi brought up the droid attack on the Wookiees, wondering what more can be done to help them. Luminara and Quinlan Vos were already being rerouted to Kashyyyk, but an attack of this scale needs another Jedi Master. In talks before this meeting, Yoda and Mace Windu had decided that one of them should be sent away from Coruscant. They both agreed that one of them leaving may help to draw out Darth Sidious from wherever he is hiding. But when Kashyyyk was brought up, and Windu looked over to Yoda, Yoda just said that his relations with the Wookiees is not the greatest. Perhaps Mace Windu should go instead. Windu was confused, but he would accept this. He wondered what Yoda could have possibly done to upset the Wookiees. Yoda was one of the most calm people that Windu has ever met, so he assumed that whatever it was must have been really impactful. Either way, the meeting would end and Windu would just begin preparing to head to Kashyyyk while Yoda adjusted his plans, and he was ready to do what must be done here on Coruscant. The first thing Yoda would do after this meeting was follow Obi-Wan and Anakin out of the council chambers, as Obi-Wan took Anakin down a set of stairs and prepared to give Anakin his new assignment, the mission to spy on Palpatine that was not going to be on record. Yoda was wondering about Anakin's place in all of this. He was certain that Sidious knew about Anakin being the chosen one, and that's why Yoda initially thought that Anakin was an excellent pawn to use against Palpatine. If Palpatine is working closely with Sidious, then putting Anakin close to him could draw out the Dark Lord. But as Yoda watched Anakin and Obi-Wan begin to argue, Yoda wondered if the council made the right choice with Anakin. Yoda slowly would walk down the stairs, and Anakin, in the midst of arguing with Obi-Wan, turned and sternly asked Yoda if he was in on this. Does he really want him to spy on the Chancellor? It's treason. Obi-Wan's face went red with embarrassment for the way Anakin just spoke to Yoda, but Yoda remained calm, giving Anakin a soft smile, saying perhaps he is right. Sometimes Anakin's bluntness was a little bit refreshing compared to the rest of the Jedi, and Yoda was deciding now that the last thing the Jedi need is an overly emotional Skywalker being manipulated by Palpatine. In theory, having the Jedi closest to the Chancellor spy on him would be an excellent idea for where they are in the war, but in practice, Yoda came to a conclusion that if given a choice, Anakin may not choose the Jedi over the Chancellor, especially if they just force Anakin to be alone with Palpatine. Yoda did not trust the Chancellor, and right now, he wasn't sure he could trust Anakin. So instead, Yoda would take this assignment away from Anakin. Yoda knew about his nightmares. He knew how badly Anakin wanted to be a Jedi Master. He knew how close Anakin was with Palpatine, and seeing Anakin argue with Obi-Wan like this was the last straw to Yoda, confirming that it was time to alter plans. If it was Windu staying instead of him, Yoda wondered how things may have played out, but this was the decision that he was making. Instead, whenever General Grievous is discovered, Yoda decided he will send both Anakin and Obi-Wan to finish that job. Keeping Anakin close to Kenobi and far away from Palpatine was going to have to be the move. Anakin would thank Yoda for taking him off this mission, and he would be dismissed for now. And together, Yoda and Kenobi would walk the halls, as Obi-Wan would also thank Yoda for ending that mission. Obi-Wan hated the idea of giving Anakin a mission bordering on treason that was off the record, a mission to spy on a friend, and both of the Jedi would express concern over Anakin's mental state after his council outburst, and as they walked, Yoda asked Obi-Wan if Anakin has come to him about his recent nightmares. Obi-Wan was confused, and Yoda could tell that Anakin only talked to him about it, which was quite interesting. Obi-Wan would hear about these nightmares from Yoda, and he would learn that Anakin is seeing someone close to him die. Obi-Wan didn't think it was himself. He doubted it was about Ahsoka, and there was really only one name that came to mind that could drive Anakin to this much distress. Obi-Wan didn't say anything to Yoda. Instead, he just thanked him once more, and Kenobi would be dismissed for now. When Yoda was alone, he went towards his own quarters to meditate on his decisions. Windu would soon be taking off for Kashyyyk, and Obi-Wan was taking a speeder across the city to a place where he was sure to find both Anakin and the person that he has likely been having nightmares about. He flew to Padme's apartment, landing his speeder right next to Anakin's. He was right, and the evening sun was beginning to set as both Anakin and Padme were sitting on a couch when Obi-Wan arrived. Anakin quickly stood up in a panic, asking Obi-Wan what is he doing here. Obi-Wan just calmly asked both of them if they could stop pretending. Obi-Wan admitted that he knows the truth. He's always suspected something since he sent them off on their mission to Naboo before the war, but he never said anything because he's seen how happy Padme makes Anakin and vice versa. Anakin and Padme were two of his greatest friends, two of the greatest people that Obi-Wan has ever met. He told them that he never stepped in to separate them, but perhaps he should have done more to ensure that Anakin followed the Jedi Code, and then he asked Padme if the child belongs to Anakin. Both Anakin and Padme no longer could lie to Obi-Wan's face, so they admitted that yes, the child is theirs together. And then Obi-Wan looked to Anakin, saying that Yoda told him about his nightmares, and he asked if they are about Padme. Anakin told Obi-Wan that they were about her, and he decided that, if nothing else, maybe Obi-Wan can help after all. Obi-Wan sat across from both of them, and he said that perhaps it's time they finally discuss what happened to Anakin's mother. Anakin turned away with frustration, remembering how Obi-Wan basically just told Anakin to let the dreams about his mother go. He told Anakin that dreams pass in time, and in the end, Anakin was too late to save his mother. And as much as Anakin loved Obi-Wan as a friend, as a brother, sometimes like a father, he would always hold a bit of resentment for how Obi-Wan handled that situation. Anakin just said he doesn't want to talk about his mother, not after what happened, and Obi-Wan knew deep down that Anakin went and was too late. He felt terrible, but he just said that the dark side of the Force surrounds everything. It is drawing out their greatest fears. For Anakin, that is losing someone that he loves above all. Anakin asked what he can do, and Obi-Wan said that perhaps the best thing for him is to just get away from Coruscant. And luckily, Yoda has decided that both of them will pursue Grievous whenever he is found. Anakin knew this, and he was greatly relieved by it, thinking Obi-Wan could be right. He truly did want to get away, despite having just returned. He needed the war to end, and he hoped Obi-Wan was right in the end. If the dark side is influencing his mind, then he must get away. And after all, Padme was less worried than anyone despite Anakin's dreams. All of her medical tests were coming back extremely healthy, and she had access to the best hospitals in the galaxy here on Coruscant. Anakin, for the first time since having the nightmares, allowed his mind to relax just a bit, and moments later, he received word on his communicator that he was being called to meet with Chancellor Palpatine. Obi-Wan told Anakin to be wary of Palpatine, and Anakin just kind of brushed it off before taking off. Obi-Wan and Padme were left alone, and the two of them would have a drink, talking for a while longer about Anakin and about the future of the galaxy. Anakin would fly over to the Opera House, and he would meet Palpatine inside. Palpatine was very much looking forward to this, as he expected Anakin to be further down the dark side after being denied the rank of Master. Palpatine suspected that the Council has assigned Anakin to spy on him, and as they sat together and talked, Palpatine would begin to pursue this line of thought, asking Anakin if the Council has begun to lose his trust. Perhaps they've asked him to do something like spy on him, but to Palpatine's surprise, Anakin said that is not true. He promised Palpatine that he is not on any special mission. Palpatine was surprised by this, but soon he would unravel the tragedy of Darth Plagueis the Wise, and Anakin would be right back in Palpatine's web. And in this meeting, Palpatine would give Anakin the location of Grievous. He's hiding out on Utapau. Palpatine would expect the Council to deny Anakin the chance to go and fight Grievous. But the next morning, Anakin would take his council seat as the entire council was discussing the mission to go and take on Grievous. From Kashyyyk, Mace Windu would say that the Council agrees that both Skywalker and Kenobi should go to Utapau. Their meeting would soon come to an end, and as Skywalker and Kenobi prepared for departure, the battle for Kashyyyk would get underway. Jedi Master Mace Windu would watch as the skies and beaches of Kashyyyk would fill with Separatist landing ships and battleships as waves of battle droids stormed the oceans, marching towards the beach. From treetop platforms, the Wookiee skiffs and fortified cliffs, Wookiee warriors and clone troopers would open fire, raining blaster bolts down into the sand. And at the front of the defensive line stood Mace Windu, lightsaber ignited, leading the Wookiees forward. When the first spider droids emerged from the water, Windu was already in the air, leaping onto a tank mid-fire, slicing through its gun, cutting down a squad of B-1s before his boots even touched the ground again. Windu was the heartbeat of the Kashyyyk resistance today, darting across the battlefield faster than any normal eyes could even keep up with. His movements inspired the Wookiees and the clones, as he was deflecting every blaster bolt, cutting down every droid, flipping off spider droids as they exploded beneath him. The Wookiees fought with him with primal fury, charging down from the trees, firing their massive blasters, crashing into the water with war cries echoing across the shore. Clones on AT-RTs flanked the enemy, blasting apart droids, while gunships fought off the incoming waves. Together, the Jedi, the clones, and the Wookiees pushed the battle back into the ocean. The beach quickly was a scorched mess of sand, wreckage, and bodies, but it was secured for now. And as reinforcements arrived by air and sea, Wookiee catamarans pounded the Separatist line, while more clones dropped in from LAATs on the high branches and cliffs. Windu remained at the very front, Purple Blade cleaving through battle droids. As if they were nothing, he was leading by example with every step, refusing to fall back, determined to win this battle, and it did allow him to momentarily distract himself from the events on Coruscant. Meanwhile, Anakin and Obi-Wan would be dropped off at the main Republic hangar as a fleet of Venators was ready for departure. Yoda flew over with them. He wished the two Jedi for the Force to be with them, and they both assured Yoda that they will defeat Grievous. It will all be over soon, and they took off for Utapau with Cody and the 212th. The half of the 501st that was here on Coruscant was staying behind, and as they flew through hyperspace, Anakin and Obi-Wan went over battle plans with Cody, as this mission was designed to not allow Grievous to escape, no matter what. They knew he would try to run, and they could not let him. Back on Coruscant, Chancellor Palpatine would learn that Anakin actually was sent to Utapau, which was a complete surprise to him. Everything he's ever known in his years of carefully watching the Jedi told him they would not have trusted Anakin to complete this mission, and yet he was sent away. Palpatine could only wonder what the Jedi could be planning after Grievous's eventual destruction, and soon Yoda would be back in the temple, communicating with Mace Windu as the Battle of Kashyyyk was beginning to come to an end. The Republic had secured victory, the Separatists were being pushed back for good, and Windu told Yoda that, once Grievous is taken care of, he must move on Palpatine, demand that he be removed from office, and get rid of his emergency powers. Yoda still wasn't as sold on the idea of just marching into Palpatine's office, but Windu told Yoda this may be the only way to draw out Darth Sidious, if he is working with Palpatine, or if their worst fears are true and it is Palpatine, then the only way to find the truth is by closing the walls around him. Finally, Yoda would be on board, and all they could do now was wait for the reports from Utapau. On the sinkhole planet, Obi-Wan would be crouched low on the high beams overlooking the Separatist command center deep within the main city of Utapau. Wind was whipping through his robes as he told Anakin through his comlink that he was going in, and he dropped silently down onto the platform where General Grievous stood, giving the general a kind greeting. Grievous turned, laughing as he ignited his 4 blades, and in moments, Obi-Wan ignited his saber and leapt into action as well. The two of them would duel along the platform, droids watching. Grievous spun his sabers around with a mechanical snarl, and Obi-Wan was weaving between the whirring blades, parrying tight and close while striking at Grievous's exposed joints. Their sabers met, sparks flew to the floor, and Grievous lashed out with the spinning kick, sending Obi-Wan sliding back across the steel floor. He muttered to himself that he should have made Anakin do this part. Grievous laughed, moving in to finish the job, and from the sinkhole crevices above, Anakin Skywalker flew in, joined by Commander Cody and the 212th Battalion. Blaster fire filled the room as clones engaged the surrounding battle droids. Grievous turned to run away, only to find Anakin blocking the exit, lightsaber drawn, a wall of clones behind him to fire at droids trying to interfere. Now, surrounded, Grievous charged back, telling himself that he could kill both of these Jedi. He struck at Anakin first, trying to overwhelm him with raw strength. Anakin held his ground, saber movements precise and aggressive, meeting each strike, driving Grievous back with power that Grievous had never encountered from a Jedi. Obi-Wan rejoined from the back, slicing off one of Grievous's arms with a sudden upward slash. Grievous spun, launching a brutal kick towards Kenobi's chest, but he missed, and Obi-Wan spun to cut off another hand. Grievous now had just 2 left. and he leapt up to the ceiling, digging his claws into it, climbing away. Nearby, the Battle of Blaster Fire was pure chaos. The 212th fought through tight corridors and walkways in the sinkhole as waves of battle droids advanced through this city. Cody took the lead, launching thermal detonators into clustered ranks, ordering troops to higher ground, something Obi-Wan always made sure to do. Clones repelled from ledges, shooting down from above, while others rolled into cover, blasting apart the advancing droids. And back inside, Anakin forced Grievous into the center of the room, ripping apart the ceiling with the Force. And as the duel began once more, Anakin was able to slice off another arm. Now he had just one left. Grievous lunged for Obi-Wan one last time, claws scraping the floor, but Obi-Wan just flipped over him, driving his saber across the cyborg's back. And as Grievous stumbled, Anakin stepped forward and stabbed right through his chest plate. The general would convulse, and then he would collapse. The two Jedi stood over Grievous's broken body, smoke rising from the wreckage. Cody's voice echoed over the comms, confirming the droids were retreating. Anakin and Obi-Wan looked to each other and decided to go and help Cody finish the job. Back on Coruscant, Yoda and the other Jedi would receive word that Grievous was destroyed, and it would be time to make their move. So Yoda would call upon Jedi Masters Shaak Ti, Kit Fisto, and Apo Rancis, while ordering Agen Kolar and Saesee Tiin to take to the air in their Jedi starfighters. They could not be too careful. If they see a ship approaching, or if Palpatine attempts to escape, the Jedi must be ready to pursue. And so, Palpatine would be sitting in his office, monitoring the Utapau battle. He just received word that the Separatist leaders like Newt Gunray, Wat Tambor, and the others have taken off for Mustafar. They should be safe there until the Empire is created, and then they will be taken care of. Moments later, the doors would swing open as Yoda, Shaak Ti, Apo Rancis, and Kit Fisto entered the room, telling Palpatine that Grievous is destroyed. If he does not now remove his emergency powers, then he will be removed from power. And now, finally, Darth Sidious would reveal himself. He would tell the Jedi that this is treason, punishable by death, and the red blade would ignite. Yoda finally saw that his worst fears were realized, and the four Jedi ignited their blades. Then, he spun forward to meet the Jedi, and a surge of lightning exploded from his hands, blasting Kit Fisto off of his feet and into the far wall. The other three masters held up their sabers, charging in. Yoda darted through the air with sharp strikes, aimed low. Shaak Ti went high, aiming for his chest, while Apo Rancis circled from behind, tail gliding smoothly across the floor. Sidious met them with his fury. He parried Yoda's strikes, twisted to counter Shaak Ti's blade, slipping beneath her defense, stabbing her clean through the abdomen. She dropped instantly, and Sidious twisted, removing her head, laughing as he did so. Apo moved in, lunging, wrapping his tail around Sidious's midsection, pinning his arms. Yoda pressed forward, slashing for Sidious again, but Sidious grabbed the tail, and more blue lightning surged from his fingertips, coursing through the thick muscle. Apo screamed, body jerking violently, as the electricity fried through him. His grip loosened, and Sidious threw his body into a table with a burst of the Force. Now, it was just Yoda and Sidious, alone in the center of the room. Sidious laughed, sweeping with heavy strikes, but Yoda flipped and spun across the floor, countering every blow, turning his defense into offense. And then Kit Fisto would rejoin the fight, sliding behind Sidious, locking sabers with him. Fisto's form was tight and aggressive, while Yoda pushed Sidious back with a barrage of leaping strikes. As they drove Sidious across the room, Fisto stepped in and slashed into the Chancellor's robes. Sidious stumbled, and Yoda summoned the Force, blasting Sidious backward with a crushing wave. The Dark Lord smashed into the wall with a crack. Realizing he was losing, Sidious smiled at the Jedi, launching himself through the shattered window, cape flaring behind him, hoping to escape into the night and reach the Senate. But two Jedi starfighters hovered just beyond the window. Saesee Tiin and Agen Kolar at the controls. Both opened fire in unison. Bolts ripped through the air, tearing into Sidious mid-jump, throwing him back into the room. He hit the floor hard, smoke rising from a deep blaster wound. He could barely breathe. Agen Kolar and Saesee Tiin looked to each other from their cockpits, giving each other a small, respectful smile. They did it. They would not die today. Sidious tried to rise, hand twitching for his saber, but Yoda was already upon him, green blade flashing down in a final strike. With a final motion, it was done. Sidious was still dead, and Yoda closed his own eyes, regretting that it ever had to come to this. Across the galaxy, the droid armies would fall silent, as a shutdown command would soon ripple through their networks. On Utapau, Obi-Wan and Anakin returned to their Venator with victory. On Kashyyyk, Windu stood with the Wookiees and clones as the last droids fell into the sea. Plo Koon would lead a final flyover Cato Nemoidia. Mundi secured a victory on Megiddo. Aayla Secura freed Felucia from the Separatists. On Coruscant, Ahsoka would return with Maul in custody, guarded by Rex, the 501st, and the Coruscant Guard. And on Mustafar, Depa Billaba and her clone troopers would be rerouted and soon surround the conference room, arresting the Separatist leaders before a single shot could even be fired. In time, Grand Master Yoda would stand before the Senate, aged, tired, but determined, and he told the full truth of Sidious, the manipulation, of how the Jedi have been blinded by their own loyalty to the Republic. And in the end, Yoda would say that he's stepping down, trusting that the Jedi will chart a new path without him at the forefront. Bail Organa would be elected Chancellor by a sweeping vote. His calm, principled leadership was a welcome change. Anakin watched all of it unfold with a heavy heart, uncertain about the future, unsure if Padme could survive without Palpatine's knowledge. But he would be calmed as Padme gave birth safely on Coruscant, and soon, Windu and the Council chose Plo Koon as Grand Master, and the Jedi Order began to shift, focused on balance, not politics any longer. Days later, on Naboo, the sun would rise over the calm waters. As Anakin held his newborn children, the weight on his shoulders was so much lighter. Obi-Wan would help Padme settle into a new home, while Ahsoka was watching from the garden. The Clone Wars were over, the Senate was rebuilding, the Jedi had changed, and for the first time in years, there was hope from the choices they'd made together. Yoda would visit the family on Naboo, and Anakin would thank him for taking him off of the mission to spy on Palpatine. Had Yoda gone to Kashyyyk instead of Windu, Anakin knew he would have been assigned the mission, and he honestly didn't know if things would have turned out the same. And as they sat together, Anakin would actually ask Yoda what happened on Kashyyyk that made him never want to go back, and Yoda just said it was complicated, a long story that they don't have time for. Anakin accepted this, wondering how bad it could truly have been, and Yoda just chuckled to himself, knowing at the end of the day, it really wasn't that big of a deal. Folks, that is our story for today. Hope you enjoyed this one. I don't know, it was fun to do a little bit at the beginning. It actually comes from Curb Your Enthusiasm featuring Larry David. I think, that's where I stole that someone plopping down on the couch spilling a drink. I wanted it to be a little silly thing instead of a serious thing with the relations, just to mix it up. I don't know. Why not? But yeah, 100 years later, Yoda still is like, it's too awkward. I don't want to go back there. And ultimately, it saves the galaxy. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed. Appreciate you. Let me know what you want to see next, and I'll see you in the next video.